All right, folks, let's get right down to it. Got to be back to the office shortly, but didn't want to leave you without the injury wrap week 2. We're close to week 3, so a little bit more insight into the week to come based on what happened last week. So we have a bit of a little bit of a barbecue themed injury wrap this week with a whole bunch of ribs, a little bit of brisket, and a cook on the docket. Sorry, not a dad yet, but working on my dad humor. And as you can see, no dogs, no New York City skyline, the boring, fabulous big bet guitar background. Anyway, let's be quick. I'm sure most of you know most of what's to come this week, so mostly quick hitters. But we're gonna start, quarterbacks, work our way down, and then I'm gonna keep giving you a little bit of insight into some non-fantasy scoring players each week. So we'll get to them because that's probably the stuff that you're not getting elsewhere on Twitter and whatnot. Anyway, Dalton out. Not dead. He's not dead. He's just out. Week to week for the Bears, it is Justin Fields season. Hopefully he could take the reins and run with it, literally and figuratively. Don't fade Justin Fields because you think the Browns defense is vaunting. This is a guy who, if he puts up about 200 and a TD through the air, we're looking at a pretty good ceiling there. That's his floor. But if we can get, 12 to 15 rushes out of him, looks good. Moving on, Carson Wentz, 2 ankle sprains, 1 high, 1 low. Okay. And somehow could still go this week. I would be looking elsewhere. I don't like this matchup from a betting standpoint. It's going to be probably feast or famine for most of the skill guys in this game, but I'm avoiding Wentz. Even if he goes, I wonder if it's smoke and mirrors here up until game time. But you're going to have to keep an eye on practice reports there. Tua out. First reports for MRI were negative, or radiographs were negative for fractures, and then it comes out that he does have fractured ribs, so he's probably going to miss some time. It is boring Jacoby Brisket season. I'm avoiding just about everything on the Miami side of the ball, like Vegas in the game. But yeah, if you got to start Brissett in super flex. Anyway, moving on, Tyrod, we know he's out. That game's tonight. Davis Mills season. Tyrod's placed on the IR with hamstring strain, so he's going to miss minimum 3 games. Davis Mills, I did a little bit of a scouting report on him earlier in the offseason talking about, I think this was even pre-draft. This guy was a bit of a stud coming out of high school, and then his potential career went sideways with, I think, a couple ACL injuries. Went to Stanford, so maybe he's a bright guy, but it'll be interesting to see what he does tonight. Keep an eye on him. Hopefully you don't have to start him. You're not touching him in single quarterback or redraft. But chuck it up to Brandon Cooks is all we can hope. And then last on the quarterback list, we have Baker, injured his non-throwing shoulder last week. He should be full go. And that's it for quarterbacks. Running backs, Darrell. I forget. I feel like the fantasy football world has gone back and forth on this one. I'm going to stick with Darrell. Darrell Henderson injured his ribs as well last week. He is week to week. Not week to week. He is day to day. I don't believe he's practiced yet. Tomorrow is going to be the important one. It could be Sony Michel's week. Honestly, maybe an ideal scenario for people who have a lot invested in Darrell Henderson is that he sits this week, gets fully rested. Sony Michel comes in and does not do much. As I think the Bucs have been pretty stout against the run, or running backs will have to help pass protect. I didn't see the Bucs Falcons game last week, but I saw Bucs Cowboys 2 weeks ago, and Zeke was protecting Dak what seemed like on almost every drop back. Keep an eye on practice reports. Josh Jacobs still on the injury report. Used to be ankle and toe. Now it's just ankle. So I guess the toe is no longer a worry, but he was still practicing with the red shirt today, I believe. I'm not holding out for this one. I think, Raiders are 2-0. They've got a couple of strong wins. They go back home against Miami without Tua. I think Jacoby is a downgrade from Tua. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders sit Jacobs one more week, and hopefully you're not having to rely on him anyway. I don't know if we're ever going to see any involvement in the passing game or 2-minute work. So is what I think Ben Gretsch would call one of those trap backs. I forget what the trap stands for, but it's, guys who get work in not important situations for fantasy purposes. So moving on, San Francisco running backs, man, San Francisco just they know how to continue their running back carousel stereotype. Jeez. Anyway, Trey Sermon concussed. He's in the protocol. You get concussed on a Sunday, you always have a shot to play the next Sunday, barring that it's the second concussion in a relatively short amount of time. So Sermon could go. Hasty is going to be out with whatever his ankle injury is. Mitchell with a stinger to his neck shoulder area still could go, though I believe there was some verbiage that says it's a little bit more serious than they initially thought. I believe they added Cincinnati Bengals practice squad player to their team. I would say with only that move being made, I think that they're probably thinking at least one of Sermon and Mitchell goes. Whichever one does, you're going to want him in your lineup. But it could be both. And maybe both are still useful against this Green Bay defense that Memphis would surely call soft. And then last of the running backs, Dalvin Cook, Minnesota Vikings. Looked like he had a pretty nasty ankle injury on Sunday. But Mike Zimmer, who is, I believe, probably feeling pretty desperate at this point. I think the Vikings are 0-2. Says it's wheels up for Dalvin until he can't handle the workload. So there we are with our running backs. Wide receivers, here we go. Jarvis Landry, MCL injury on Sunday. This is not one of the more serious knee injuries, but time matters. He was placed on the IR. And skipping ahead to OBJ, I may as well stick with the Browns. OBJ, I believe, is going to be a game-time decision. Still looking to record his first snaps post-ACL repair. He's still not near that magical number, 11 and a half, 12 months post-op. So, we'll see what happens with him. I also have to think that Cleveland at home against a rookie quarterback, they're probably thinking that they don't need to throw everything at them. So I'd expect them to still be a little bit conservative with OBJ. But I do think it's wheels up for, a plethora of tight ends in Cleveland right now. So feel free to stream any of them if you have to. I'd probably lean Njoku or Hooper. And then Anthony Schwartz got a little bit of buzz in training camp. Maybe that rookie finally shows out, or Donovan Peoples-Jones. He showed out last year when given opportunity. And then perhaps Demetric Felton gets a little bit more opportunity this week after looking pretty good last week. Anyway, Laviska Shenault Jr. injured his shoulder last week and I believe will be good to go this week. That's what Urban says. I don't know if I trust the word that Urban says. He still says he's not interested in USC. I think one more loss, he might be a little bit more interested in USC, but I don't know. I don't know that stuff. Somebody will figure it out. Deontay Johnson. This one, the giant question mark. Or, anyway. There's a special word for question mark and exclamation point, like as the same symbol. It was one of my trivia questions during the week, and I nailed it. And it's a cool word. Look it up and then figure out how to use it. But that's Deontay gets that label of the week because Tomlin had some weird comment about it, saying, oh, his knee is good. It's not great. It's good. Something along those lines. Haven't heard anything about an MRI, any speculation on the injury. He didn't practice Wednesday, so you're going to want to keep an eye on him in the next couple days. If he doesn't go, we're probably going to see plenty of Claypool and Juju. They got Najee involved in the passing game a bit last week. I'd expect that to continue, and maybe I'll see a little bit more Pat Freiermuth this week as well, as he slowly steals that job from Eric Ebron. Nico Collins will not play tonight for the Texans, nor the next two games after that, as he's been placed on the IR with a shoulder injury. I believe it's an AC joint sprain, but he wasn't doing much at this point anyway. But in Dynasty, you're stashing him for the long haul anyway, so throw him on your IR and hope for better days. And Amari Cooper, ribs again. Ribs for the quarterback, ribs for a running back, ribs for a wide receiver. The trifecta is complete, folks. Amari Cooper is day-to-day. He is not practicing today. But with the Cowboys playing on Monday night, that's an extra day for him to practice. So today being Thursday is really a Wednesday for the Cowboys. And so look for tomorrow or Saturday for him to suit up in some capacity. He's a veteran. He knows what he's doing out there. He knows the offense. So really anything from Amari will look good. And I'd expect him to play on Sunday if we see him in practice at all. And now the non-fantasy scorers, key names. We got a couple of Brandons out of Philly. Brandon Brooks, Eagles guard. This Eagles team, I listen to a lot of John Middlecoff and the GM Shuffle, and all they can talk about how this Eagles team will win games with their O-line and D-line. Well, each of them took a hit this week. Brandon Brooks, strained torn pec, but he's going to be placed on the IR, so he'll miss at least 3 games, possibly more. And then Brandon Graham, defensive end for the Eagles, tore his Achilles, and he is done for the year. 2 massive hits to the Eagles team that, I think they were already starting to surprise a little bit. They hung tough with San Francisco and walloped Atlanta, and they're in the NFC East, so anything's possible. Bradley Chubb, linebacker for the Broncos, had his ankle scope this week to have a bone spur removed that started nagging him in the game last week. And he's been placed on the IR and sounds like he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. So that defense in Denver takes a hit. I still think Vic Fangio will figure it out. But, tough one for Denver. And then in Pittsburgh, we got a couple of guys on defense that are banged up as well. Tyson Alu, what a fun name. Fractured his ankle. He's a defensive lineman for the Steelers, veteran, probably locker room leader for this very gritty Steelers defense. He's been placed on the IR with the fractured ankle. I'd expect him to miss well more than 3 games. I would say upwards of 5-6 weeks, depending on the complexity of it and if there was any sort of hardware that needs to stabilize it. So we'll monitor that going forward. And then also on the defensive side of the ball for Pittsburgh, TJ Watt strained his groin. He's got a shot to play this week. I would think he would if he's got any shot to. I don't think he or the Steelers are going to err on the side of caution with him. They're not necessarily in desperation mode yet, but they lose to Cincy, and it's looking bad for the Steelers. And then A.J. Terrell, cornerback for the Falcons, who some would say is the best defensive player on the Atlanta defense, which somebody's got to take that trophy, though I don't think anybody wants to put it on the top of their trophy shelf. But yes, A.J. Terrell, concussion last week. And as we know, as we've already talked about the concussion, actually, if you want to know more about the concussion protocol, my Twitter at DWZ_Dr. PT. I quote tweeted Edwin Porras, physical therapist. He had a nice mentioning either sermon, probably sermon he was mentioning, but a nice little infographic about how the protocol can be, how players can get through the protocol in the most efficient manner. It's a minimum of 5 days after, with each day being progressively more intense for exercise and training. So Terrell has a shot to play, but I don't believe he's got a history of concussions, so that always bodes well. Keep an eye on him for the practice report tomorrow and Saturday. If you care about what's going on the Falcons side of the ball, I like the over in the Falcons-Giants game. I know the Giants have Ingram and Barkley and Galladay. Actually, I forgot to mention Galladay. He showed up as a limited participant in individual drills today. Hopefully that's just maintenance. He's a veteran. They're coming off long rest, so it's a little bit concerning. But I expect this to be potentially the New York Giants offensive coming out party. So, and then moving over to Tennessee, a couple offensive linemen. Taylor Lewan injured his knee in warm-ups against Seattle, but he's been practicing and he should go. And then Roger Saffold, actually couldn't find out what his injury is. But I don't think he practiced yet this week. Keep an eye on him. I think he only logged about half the offensive snaps before leaving the game on Sunday. But important veterans to this offensive line that likes to pave the way for Henry, though they did fine without him. So keep an eye on those guys. Anyway, thanks to all the new followers out there. I'm being plugged by Memphis and JD and Dan. It's good to be a part of all of these streams for fantasy football, avenues for fantasy football. Happy to do it. Guys, this show is for you. I'm not making any money off of this. I just love football. I love fantasy football. So slide into my DMs if you have ideas, suggestions, questions. I'm just doing what I think you guys want right now. So tell me what you want, what you really, really want. And I'll leave you guys with that Spice Girls quote. Again, at DWZ_Dr. PT. Take care, folks.